All right, it is 3:03. Man, that was so much more of a relaxed way to do this. Normally I try to get started right on the hour and I'm like trying desperately to keep up with everyone joining while trying to get going. So thanks for your patience for those 3 minutes. Hopefully that was a nice little transition for y'all as well. Well, hey, I'm so happy to see everybody. Like 200 people signed up for this session, which is bonkers. Clearly this is a really um timely and interesting topic to a whole lot of people. And from where I'm sitting, that's like the greatest news ever. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a long time since I've felt a little disenchanted, disillusioned with the corporate world. And interacting with it on our own terms, whether it's not at all or in very select ways, is something that we really do have the ability to get very, very creative about. And so I'm just beyond thrilled. This has been my soul's calling, especially for the last couple of years, to really focus on helping seasoned business leaders and product leaders break free into a new way of working, one that's more suited to our minds and bodies. Like, whose mind and body does corporate life suit, really? Like, I want to meet that person. Like, we should do experiments on them in a laboratory. Because as far as I can tell, it doesn't work for many people. Okay, cool. So let's drop in and get started. Hopefully, most folks have had a chance to arrive. And I am recommitting to starting my sessions the same way that I start pretty much everything in my process, which is to drop into our bodies and check in with what's going on here right now, in the present, in your physical form, this adorable meat sack full of mineral salts that schleps us from spiritual experience to spiritual experience. So totally up to you, your body, your choice, but I invite everyone to just feel their feet on the ground, feel these contact points lifting from under the seat. And really take a second, especially if you're just joining, maybe you're coming from crazy meetings or some other stressful life event. Draw your energy down to the spot right below your belly button. So again, for all of us or all of you just joining, this is totally optional, but hopefully feels pretty good. Feels pretty nice to check in with our bodies. Some days it's easier than others, right? And I invite you all to exhale from wherever your breath is right now. And inhale fully, hold it at the top. Exhale fully, hold it at the bottom. And inhale again. This is sort of a riff on box breathing, which is so good for our nervous systems and is very versatile, regardless of whether we're the type to freeze up and like deer in the headlights when we get anxious or fearful, or if you're like me and you tend to talk really fast and get all this fight or flight energy going. Box breathing really does a great job at meeting us wherever we are and bringing us back to baseline. So I want to welcome everybody. I'm so beyond thrilled that you're here. My goal for today is to make this as interactive of a session as possible so that all of you walk out of here with a concrete package deliverable that you can begin sharing with your network, with your friends, with people that you trust, as sort of a minimum viable product for what you might do if and when you choose to leave the corporate world and launch your own thing. So just to be really clear about this, I only work with seasoned business leaders just because they have you all have a solid sense already about stuff like what an MVP is and the iterative experimentation process, right? So we're not going to talk too much about fundamentals today, and I don't talk about that much in any of my programs. This is really about the tactical aspects of narrowing down a story and a pitch that is concise, accurate, precise, and then arranging all of the physiological and emotional pieces behind it so that you deliver it really effectively. And what that's going to could result in, if you use it, is your first client, customer, whether it's consulting, whether it's a physical product that you're creating, whether it's you're starting a career as a coach or a guide or a mentor in some other way. It's this process that we're going to do today is very, very versatile. So regardless of where you end up, in fact, there's no way we could actually know that for sure today anyway. you'll have something as an MVP to start testing and iterating with. So really, really excited to get you guys across the finish line in the next 90 minutes. And so just a reminder, this session is 90 minutes. I did that so I could really focus in on sort of like a half-hour chunk of the teaching. And then I really, more than I ever have before in any of my workshops, I really want to engage folks and do live coaching with as many people as I can. So literally, I'm hoping to do an hour of live coaching here today. So I would really, really love it for you to, like, I don't know, kind of think about whether that's you today. Again, it is in public, but it's also probably good practice for visibility, being seen. And obviously, you know, my clients do spend tens of thousands of dollars for this stuff, and you're getting it totally free today. I really, really encourage you to use this opportunity to receive that support today. Okay, enough yippity yapping. Let's get going. Just as a check-in, you will need a pad and paper or a notes file. I'm a huge Apple Notes person. And have your work calendar handy. We're just going to pull it up as reference at some point during this session. Okay, so zooming out just a little bit, I want to introduce myself for all of you that I have not met yet. Maybe it's your first session here with me. I love teaching more than anything. And so this is honestly just being here with you puts me in my zone of genius and makes me feel like I've just, I don't know, made great decisions in my career. So thank you so much for being here. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization called Fearless Femmes. It helps people just like you, folks who are experienced business and product leaders, launch their next phase of their career. And so the methodologies that we're using today will be precisely the ones that I use for all of my clients. So I'm just really stoked to offer that to y'all here at the end of the year as sort of a gift. I also am an artist. This is something that I really have worked on reclaiming in the last 5-10 years, I guess. And I want to invite all of you to experiment with reclaiming that a little bit today. My form of art is creating spaces for people to be seen and heard and feel understood and connect, as well as writing. So again, maybe your art isn't what you might classically call art because you're not painting or whatever. I encourage you to expand your definition of what art is. All of my clients are artists in some ways, either in a more traditional sense, or at the very least, they're creating a career the same way one does art. And so that's definitely the vibe of what we're going to be doing today. So just to make a couple promises here, you will get more if you participate, obviously. Hopefully that goes without saying. I really want you guys firing up the chat, interrupting me with questions, raising your hand, whatever it is. If it's urgent, feel free to just interrupt me. I totally welcome that, promise. Oops, hang on, let me admit one more person. Here we go. I do also have an authentic style, so I don't know, I march the beat of my own drum a little bit. I do swear moderately, you've been warned. And yeah, what you see is what you get here. This is really who I am, and I show up that way every day, or at least I try to. I also promise to give away literally everything I can in 90 minutes. And if you want more help at the end of 90 minutes, because there is a ton of stuff that we just won't have time to cover, I will tell you how to get that support. So we'll revisit that at the end. So let's get into it. First off, hey, just want if you guys want to actually fire up the chat. This is something that I like to check in on as sort of a benchmark here. Shraddha, yes, I will be sending out the recording. Sorry, I just saw that chat. See if you can name the emotional state that you're in right now. Anyone want to share it in the chat? We'll check in again at the end, but sometimes, gosh, when was the last time that you really were like, I'm going to name how I'm feeling right now? Let's make it right now. Uncertain, stuck, exhausted. Wildly curious, fantastic. Open, tired, bored. Hell yeah, I feel that. I mean, not anymore, but I used to. Really, really beautiful starting point. So first off, I have an affect that might be really upbeat today. I am full of energy and really loving being here right now with you. So obviously I'm going to have a pretty positive, positive mood, but I want you all to feel really, really certain every emotion is welcome here today, whether it's shock and awe or fear, or like you're feeling a little push to your boundary, or you're just feeling really exhausted. All of those things are totally welcome. And yes, Allie, I think everyone here is on the brink of something. It tends to be that way. So I love that. And just keep it, an encouragement to check in occasionally throughout the session, and then we'll check in again at the end. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. Has been known to slip my mind. Oops, where was I here? There we go. So our agenda for today. I love this tree of life analogy. It's really apropos. We're going to start by rooting down in service of creating a strong trunk that is going to kind of be this deliverable, this story plus pitch that I was mentioning earlier, so that we can then pick the fruit of this thing that you can then go out and take into the world and benefit from. Cool. So again, I find pretty much all of my methodology starts with root causes, underlying desires, all, the roots of the thing, to then inform what grows. So that's, again, that's just the vibe that you're going to be getting here today. And that's where we're going to start. And pretty much everyone who is considering leaving their cushy corporate job or their miserable corporate job, you might be coming from any of these places. One of the first things that they get all wrapped around the axle about is this question or this exclamation of, but I don't know what to build. What would I build? And you guys, you're all experienced, tenured business leaders, product leaders. When have you ever known for sure what the final product was going to be when you started? The answer is never. It has always changed. It's always evolved. You've always iterated on it, right? And so, again, this is just a calling to leverage all the skills that you totally already have here creatively to come up with what's going to be just an MVP. It's just a starting point. Right. And again, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, blah, 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 all that trite stuff. But really, this is about you just getting a first draft on the page and rolling forward. Right. So again, this is one of the three big questions or explanations. Tomorrow's is going to be, but what if I run out of money and go broke? So stick around. You'll want to, if that's also a question that causes you to seize up, you'll want to join tomorrow's session as well. But today we're going to be focusing on detangling, defraying a bit this panic around, but what would I build? We're literally going to answer that question today. Because literally all of my clients, as I mentioned, come from this starting point, right? Kate, Angela, Anjana, all of them came to my session. This is just a couple of my clients' names have been changed upon request, but they all came with exactly at the starting point that you all were. And just to kind of again, if you can kind of feel into this point A, I also want to energize the point B a bit. Oh my gosh, I keep losing my slides. There we go. The results that they were able to get with 6 months of working together, right? So again, this is involving all of the reflection, all of the creative, and a bit of the iteration process. The results were all over the place. So I also want to kind of depressurize a bit, deciding if you're gonna leave your job today or deciding if you're done with product forever, right? In practice, as you reflect, you'll be able to, you actually will be uncovering new ideas and more creative options as you go. So over the course of 6 months together, these are actual real results that they got. We actually went ahead and got Angela a promotion. Just because she was teed up to get one, I'm an expert in that too, while she created a whole work stream for herself and time and boundaries and the emotional and creative energy to write their second novel. Really, really cool stuff. She's a published author. Another client landed their first consulting client for mindful, soulful product team development. Most of you are probably here because you may have resonated a bit with my little woo-woo streak. It's fine. I'm out of the closet about it. It's something that I've found really, really beautiful. I try to use most of the big chunks of my life as a vehicle for spiritual transformation, and using my career as one has been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. And so if that is also you, if that resonates with you, you're in the right place. You can make great not just a solid living, incredible amounts of money and incredibly expansive career and work experience doing stuff that's a little bit off the beaten path, like mindful, soulful product team development. You can even use those words, right? We've got folks in my program who are not into astrology and are using that as part of what they offer as a consultant. It's all over the map. There truly are no constraints. You're not going to believe me, but just try to trust me on that one. Another client, actually, through the process that we use to surface opportunities of all stripes, actually got an offer out of the blue to design her own role at a venture firm, with time, of course, on the side to build her ceramics business. She's an incredibly talented ceramicist. So just seeding some examples here about just how outside of the box this end state, this point B that you're looking for can be. So I'll just pause for a second, see if there's any other, let's see, just any other questions in the chat. I'll just be checking in on that periodically. So feel free to holla. Okay. Where was I? Cool. My vision for Fearless Femmes, this is for my own career and also, frankly, for the world at large, is based on this principle that the future of work is personality-led, not job title-led. And what this means in practice is that your values, your desires, oh my gosh, I said it, your desires, and your unique superpowers are going to dictate your career path, not some busted ass ladder. Am I right? Like, if you're tired of the ladder, say hell yes in the chat. I just want to like see, look alive out there. This ladder thing is just, ew, like we were at the top of the ladder. Okay, cool, then what? Well, you're just alone up at the ladder? Like what? That doesn't even make any sense as a metaphor. Stepping over other people, like all parts of the metaphor is just so gross to me. So yeah, we're here to create a career playground. We're all over the place, and there's just no reason why we can't backwards engineer amazing revenue, amazing sense of purpose, fulfillment, and impact. Yeah, what is that ladder? Geez. Okay, so today, let's get started on just the first part of this deliverable. We're going to envision how good it can get for you. And in particular, we're going to start with this values piece. So I'm going to just put this in the chat really quick, but I'll open this as well. And I would love for someone to volunteer. Just take yourself off mute and say me. And we're going to start this process together live right now. Who wants this live coaching experience? I'll try to get to as many people as I can today.
Me.
All right. Who was that?
Here, Ani.
Ani, awesome. I'm so excited to know you. So check out that list of values quickly. And this is where I encourage everyone else to pick up their little notes file. It's a really nice, perhaps not comprehensive list of values, but it's a big one. And it's kind of interesting as you skim these values. And Ani, you can check that out as well. It's in the chat if anyone's missed that link. Just open up that link, take a little peek. It'll be kind of interesting, like, oh my God, there's so many values that I don't have, right? It's like, wow, that's definitely not a value of mine. It's really interesting, right? But I want you to pick 3 that leap out at you today. Normally in my work, in my sessions and in my modules, we pick 10 and go really deep and broad on it. But just for the sake of time today, we'll do 3. So as you skim it, don't think too hard about it, Ani, but like, are there 3 that jump out at you?
Making difference, personal fulfillment, and community. From a quick scan.
Beautiful. So yeah, we share all 3 of these. And there might be some that you're optimizing for more than others today. Again, there's lots of different lenses that you might be looking at these values through. And what I really find to be sort of the like catalytic next step that takes something that's just like, oh yeah, that's my value, neat, I wrote it down or put it on the wall or whatever. I want to actually energize a future. And this is where it gets can be a little bit vulnerable, but also deeply creative, Ani. I want you to take a moment and imagine 10 years from now where this value is just happening beautifully. Like you get to live into it all the time. It's awesome. So let's start with making a difference. I want you to tell me how you're living into this value when life is awesome.
It's such a hard thing to imagine, to be honest, but I have been trying to think about it, honestly, for a while. And what it looks like where I'm personally fulfilled and I'm making a difference, and also community, right? All 3 in one. It's this woman community that we are helping each other to grow and feel valued while it's it's not about making money. It's about being part of a community where you can do things without being monetarily driven. It's this super vague idea, but it's a start.
Yeah, it is a really, really beautiful start. In particular, one of the things, this is something that everyone can model a bit. Anytime that we say, oh, in this vision, there's this lack of something, like there's this absence of something, I like to just fill in that that kind of blank space with what's there instead. So what I'm hearing is, instead of this kind of weird, twisted obsession on money and greed, right? So I'm sort of, again, money I kind of see as being neutral, but like it's the greed and how, like what it brings out in people, and like the power dynamics and injustice that emerges, right? Am I on base here?
Yeah.
Off base.
And I think the lack of community and a place for any women to go where it's not about professional development and going up in the ladder. In fact, exactly what you have today, right, is what I am envisioning in a sense. It just doesn't need to be product, tech, leadership. Yeah. It can be anyone that is something, find yourself without any restrictions. These are just bigger.
Killer. So I love this, and this is really, really powerful. Clearly, these three values are really closely intertwined. And when life is awesome, again, just like if it were fucking awesome, here's what it would look like, right? I feel like I got a really clear picture of that from what you're saying. So go ahead. I want everyone to just take a moment, if you haven't already. Start checking out, or take that value that you noted, and go ahead and write your own sentence about how it looks when it's awesome, when this value is just present in your life all the time. And it might seem a little, again, it might seem really broad at first. That's the thing about what is effectively a vision statement, right? It's supposed to be broad. It's supposed to be grandiose. It's not supposed to have metrics in it, right? That all comes later. So we're really just forming this rootstock here that's hooked up to your values. That again, it could grow into anything. We'll see. So all of this is by design. I'll give you just a second to do that. And Ani, since I think you've already done this for yourself, go ahead and pull up your work calendar. You don't need to share it, obviously, because there might be some personal stuff on there. But I want you to just have that handy for the next question. All right. So my question for Ani and for everyone, as you do this for yourself, are there any meetings on your calendar or events or tasks or whatever where you are living into these values of making a difference? It's a block of time that is personally fulfilling to you or feels connected to to the value of community in some way? Do you have maybe just say up to three?
Yes, tomorrow and the other day, and it's called the Becca Camps meetings.
Hell yes. I mean, that just made my whole day. Thanks. And so
other than that, no, I do not.
Yeah. So this is, again, really, really normal. A lot of people, when they were sort of naming their emotions here at the beginning, a lot of exhausted, confused, curious, which is good, but all these sometimes we would call them negative emotions, right? Uncomfortable emotions that are basically just, it's a messenger saying, hey, something needs to change. Like, that's it. It's not that you're bad or wrong, or anything is necessarily bad or wrong. It's just like, hey, we need to make a change here. And so I think that one of the things that we could just use as a frame is this very simple idea that our happiness is pretty much dictated by how we spend our time. If you're doing stuff you enjoy, you're gonna feel pretty satisfied with your life. And if you're not, you're not. It's crazy, right? So it seems incredibly obvious. And yet most of us look at our calendar and dread almost everything on it. At least that was me. That's most of my clients when we're just kind of feeling like a square peg in a round hole of the corporate world, right? So let's get a little creative. So this is a little bit about baby steps, but also thinking about, let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm kind of like coming up with this little piece live here. I want everyone to carve out a block on their calendar of at least 30 minutes, ideally 2 hours. But if that is totally inaccessible, I want you to carve out at least 30 minutes during the workday. Like, yeah, let's do it. I want you to carve out 30 minutes for something that gives you pleasure or fulfills one of the 3 values. It can be anything. It could be something at work. It could be you're taking a 30-minute break from work in the middle of the day because you're the boss. Ani, what comes to mind for you if you're doing that? By the way, if you're having trouble coming up, if anyone is having trouble coming up with something you enjoy that is a symptom of burnout, totally normal. That is your nervous system protecting itself from disappointment, from frustration. Sometimes that desire is actually too hot to touch. So again, that's totally.
Napping count?
Say again, sorry.
Can taking a nap count?
Oh, yes, it can. So yes, rest, which by the way, is one of our most radical forms of resistance, as the activist and overall complete badass inspiration, Adrienne Marie Brown would say. Rest is resistance. So let's get a nap in there. Other things that you might do is just, again, if there's a meeting on your calendar that you really enjoy, let's get another one on there. Unless you have a complete overage of meetings, in which case you might be deleting one, right? Maybe the block of time that you're putting in is doing whatever the fuck you want. That's what's on your calendar, right? So really exerting some agency here in how you spend your time. These little things make a big difference. And even in a world where you've created and designed your entire calendar based exclusively on your own desires and what you love doing, you still might need to edit it every once in a while. So this is actually my own calendar. If we look back to the screen share that I'm sharing here, this is a calendar from, I can't remember when, it was a couple months ago. I've made massive changes to this because at some point my natural rhythm, my natural seasonality just caused some of these to be out of date, right? And yeah, no, Allison, you don't have to work until 6 to have a full day. Okay, there's lots of science to back up the statement, the assertion that I'm going to make, which is that no one actually works more than 20 hours a week. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it. I swear. There's actually a ton of science here. We do go to great effort to look like we're doing work, but actually it tends to be incredibly ineffective. So let's see. So Dawn, one of your values is boldness, which has been compressed over the last couple of years. How to be bold in a 2-hour segment? Anyone got ideas for Dawn here? As Caroline suggests, doing something that scares you. Some of you are doing stuff that scares you all day, every day, which is, again, know what represents balance for you, right? Again, this is in my line of work, there just isn't this universal answer like, oh yeah, do this and you'll be sorted. The reflection on your deep, true desires are the thing that's going to get you to your answer. Writing and sharing how you actually feel. Frankly, Jody, that's an amazing one. Even naming your emotion and putting it in a chat where other people could see it. Again, I work in this realm of emotional vulnerability and availability and visibility. Most people go through their entire lives never doing that, not even once. Crazy, right? So yeah, Sarah, what comes to mind when you think about boldness? Or sorry, Dawn, I love Sarah's question about what comes to mind for you when you think about boldness. You can
for me, what comes to mind is saying what is not being said in the room, but is obvious.
Yeah. Any recent examples?
Yes, I called out to a project manager who was hosting these meetings that, as the company had grown from 6 to 70 people, half the company was now in these meetings, and everybody was looking at designs and trying to figure out why they were there, and they were trying to make decisions around next steps. And so I called out, a pause to rethink who needs to be in the meeting, why they need to be there, and to alleviate some of this, I guess I would call it just friction and drag, because it was literally like throwing the project off because so many people were involved. And it didn't go well. Calling that, I mean, I tried in private, and I tried with the CEO, and it just continued to happen. Like, we couldn't get it to stop 3 times a week. And so finally called it out in front of everyone. And there was a lot of people cheering, like, I do not want to be in this meeting. But it was very painful, I think, as well. So, trying to figure out how and when to use that boldness to liberate people and make effective use of their time, but also to like stay on track and keep us moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that was an example of it not going well. And I think what I would love is to be able to use all of those sort of skills of reading the room and seeing where we're going and understanding what people and the things that we work on do, and being able to speak boldly about that in a way that results in positive change. So.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about boldness, at least in my experience. It tends to not go over smoothly with everyone. That tends to be a big part of it, right? That's part of being on the edge of a revolution or a huge societal change, right? Is that actually, I don't know, call it even as much as 50% of people are gonna be rubbed the wrong way by it. Right. And again, that often has more to do with them than it does with you. Does that mean that there's nothing to learn from, when it doesn't go great? No, also that. Right. So I guess my next question to follow up about like how to spend these 2 hours, Dawn, do you have a practice for acknowledging and self-acknowledging and self-praising your acts of boldness that you take?
This is timely because I'm doing the Healthy Minds, which is an app for meditation. I think Dalai Lama and University of Wisconsin have been working on it. And we just got to the kindness pillar and connection pillar. And in it, you actually direct kindness to yourself, which has been earth-shattering for me. I don't spend a lot of time giving myself praise for when I'm bold. In fact, I usually am overly critical, which has created so much compression. And then this sort of like, how do I resolve it? Because it flows through. It's a value. Since I was a child, I've gone all the way back. It's like, I just love being bold. So I haven't, and I appreciate you calling that out, because I'll have to pair those two things together and see how that feels for sure.
That sounds like it would be bold as hell. Right. So that sounds really beautiful, right? Again, kind of like how rest is an act of resistance, internal validation is also an act of resistance, right? And an act of self-love and an act of pleasure. And I mean, it's not all about resistance here. All right. Yeah, that sounds like it would be a really beautiful way to spend a chunk of time. So give it a shot and report back.
Will do.
Really good stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, all right. So how we spend our time, just to take us back to where we were, how we spend our time dictates how we spend our life, right? How we spend our week is how we spend our life. And how we spend our life is, again, very simply, it's like, are you doing stuff and spending time on stuff you enjoy or not? And for, by the way, don't know if there's any recovering people pleasers in the audience. Well, surely not. Oh, good heavens. Surely that's highly unusual among high achieving femmes, or people socialized as women. If you have people pleasing tendencies, if you have that lived experience where that was a program that got written, that is a thing we spend a huge amount of time on in my programs. Again, it's a neuro pathway that's wired in, like not hardwired, but some firmware, you could say. And with a lot of practice, you can rewrite that program to focus a little bit more, optimize, index a little bit more on internal validation. let's see, Dory and who else raised their hand? Did you guys have something you wanted to say, or you were just like, hell yeah?
No, we were saying hell yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. I'm so happy to see you guys, by the way. Cool. All right, so on to the next agenda point. Now we're gonna rubber's gonna meet the road here a little bit. So really get these notes out for yourself. This is kind of the tactical stuff, right? Now that we've put these roots down, maybe they're even a little subversive. You're like, oh my God, I'm allowed to do something just because I like it. And the answer is, oh yeah. That's it. That's our purpose in life, is to be a good person and have fun. So we want to grow a strong trunk, and there's a way to do that really effectively and a way to do it less effectively, so that when you share this story with other people, you don't get that blank look about like, what? Or you don't catch yourself rambling. Anyone else like a rambler or recovering rambler? Oh my God, I would black out, and I'd been talking for like 2 minutes about nothing. It was such a habit. But having this practice little package in your back pocket is going to make a huge difference in your ability to just hammer out your call it an elevator pitch, the really small, little, short, concise package of exactly what you do. Because if you're not a product manager at such and such company, what are you? And the answer is, I'm a person who does these things. And when it's really snappy and really impactful and you are feeling it, it is so much more impressive than I am job title at X company, right? So here's how we do it. These are the principles. These are the criteria here. We want the stitch, again, this is the story plus pitch. To be precise, concise, and accurate. And the goal here is to paint a picture of exactly what you'll do to create value. Okay. So this is where coaching goes a long way. And if you guys attended my last session, gosh, maybe a month ago, I'm having trouble remembering, something like a month ago, maybe 6 weeks. This is going to be the same content as you saw there. But rather than kind of just hammer it out and teach through the logistics of it again, I'm going to give a little refresh of it for anyone who's new. And then I want to go into the coaching. So we'll start with Ani, and then I actually want to expand. I'll give anyone else the opportunity to generate this stitch, and we'll start with a little support in wordsmithing it. So everyone, I really want you following along on these notes. So what do you do? Oh gosh, let's see. These were, I'm actually going to take this in a slightly different direction here. So here are the 3 components of the stitch. 1 minute. The stitch has these 3 bits. Your strengths. So this is, again, just the skills, the stuff that it would just be completely dumb for you to not get paid for, right? The things you love doing. And the third part is what you want to learn next. And actually, I'm going to show you guys the worksheet that we use. I'm just going to pop over to that view really quick, because it gives us a little bit more detail here. All right. So this is the worksheet that we use in my program. Again, just to recap. Oops. Can everyone see this? We good? Strengths are the things you have mastery of, and strong stories of impact about. Right. So I don't know if you were to go back to interviewing for a product role, I'm sure lots of you are really excited to never have to do that again. I know I am. These are just the things that you just do, and you have a lot of experience doing it, and you like it fine. It doesn't crush your soul or anything. They're just the skills that you have practice and you have mastery over at this point in your career. And yeah, you've got a couple of stories that demonstrate exactly how you make that happen, right? So tell me about a time when blank, and you've got a really good story. That's the skill that I want you writing down in this blank. Any questions about this bit? Where did my chat go? Cool. Magda, I'm so glad you had I know what I want to do when I grow up moment. My answer is have fun. Anytime I realize I'm not having fun, I change what I'm doing. Struggling with finding strengths. We all struggle to find our strengths. In this way, this is why we're here today, is because generating this list of strengths, which again, people are only good at one to two things, guys. Like truly, And coming up with what that is, it hits on some of our tender spots around bragging, right? Around giving ourselves credit, which we just, again, I'm sure many of you shared some of John's struggles and really giving yourself and affirming what you're good at. You might be in environments that are really devoid of praise. Lots of tech environments, whether you call them toxic or not, really, they never gave me the praise that I needed to feel really good at something, right? So lots of reasons why we struggle to find our strengths. And this is where I can help solve the free recall problem a bit by just offering some of the words to use. So again, this is kind of like, guys, there are shortcuts and cheat codes here. Here's one of them, right? There are some things that have no shortcuts or cheat codes. You will definitely need a ton of support in navigating those things. But hey, today, thank God, we got a cheat code. How nice is that? Here's some words to avoid when you're naming your skills and words to use. So as you're filling this out for yourself, again, and this list is not comprehensive at all, right? You might notice this is very like product-y oriented. Again, a lot of my clients came from that background, so that's kind of what this is tailored for, but don't let it constrain you, right? I'll give you an example of my stitch in just a moment, after I go into the other sections here. Next, and don't worry, I'll bring that list back up in a minute. Your loves are activities that you may or may not have mastery over, right? But you love spending time on. Like, it would be such a miss to take a consulting or coaching client where you just got no access to this thing, right? It would just, it might not be the end of the world, but oh, it would be a bummer. Okay. So again, these are some of those, the words to use might populate that. It might be something like it was for me, which was talking about feelings and understanding trauma and how it affects all of our interactions interpersonally, including those at work. That was mine, right? And trust me, I went through a whole crisis about how I couldn't possibly charge money or make a career out of that. And yet here I am. So really get creative with this. What do you love doing? And then the third bit is how you want to grow. So these are the skills you might not yet have, but you will get support in developing them in the next phase of your career. And one of the coolest parts about what this design allows for is you aren't good at everything. You don't have all the answers. You aren't a master of freaking everything yet, right? So yeah, here's how you want to grow. If someone wants you to hit the ground running with total expertise on how you want to grow, so glad we had this conversation. Thank you so much, right? But that's not actually me. Actually, let me introduce you to my friend who actually is really good at that thing, right? So how free and easy and organic does that feel? It's really nice, right? So there's three categories of the stitch. This is the three components: your strengths, the loves, and the want to grow. So I'll show you some examples here in a second, just to seed this, because I'm sure we're gonna, examples are really just powerful here and for this type of thing. Where were those examples? Here we go. So this is a real client stitch that I co-authored with them. This was the final result. I excel at hiring high performers and quantitative analysis. Those are two skills that she just crushes it, right? So good. She does it like breathing, you put me in, coach. I'm going to create huge, massive impact for you on these two things. I love doing market and user research. So again, she's still perhaps learning. Maybe it's not something that's a central work stream for her, but like, yeah, she wants probably an environment where she has access to resources to do that, or it's a need of the company that's willing to kind of like give her runway to have impact on these things, right? And she was looking for support in developing my product strategy and storytelling abilities. So when she was looking for a next role, this was for someone looking for another in-house role, she was reverse interviewing every company about who is gonna provide this resource for her. Is it a mentor internally? Is it budget for coaching? Because she's gonna make this happen as the next phase of her career. So what is it for you? What skill do you want to build? A little bit more off the beaten path. This is from a client. Again, this is actually a client of mine in the reInvent program, someone who's not working on an in-house goal. I excel at guiding people through paralyzing emotional states, helping them break down their vision into achievable goals. I love writing and teaching with my unique voice. And I want to learn more about the sociology of trauma and how it impacts organizational dynamics. Right? So totally different thing, right? So one of the things that we can do, this is, as you can tell, for the sake of the example, I expounded on each of these points a little bit. So there is a version where there is a single word to describe my strength, a single word to describe what I love doing, and a single word to describe what I want to learn next. That can be really handy in an environment where you literally only have 10 seconds to describe what you're doing. But often at this early stage, it's nice to do a little bit of fleshing out of exactly what you mean. So Ani, tell me, do you have your 2 strengths, 1 to 2? We can start with 1.
I think strategic thinking and planning is my strength. I guess design thinking, strategic thinking and planning is my strength.
I love it. So this is where it's not just strategy, right? Strategy broadly. It's like, well, if you're not being strategic, then like, what the hell are you doing? Like, we're in business here. Like, you better be acting strategically. So very specifically, it's about the strategic planning process and best practices and design thinking, which again is a clearly defined process that you have lots of experience doing, and you can pull on those strengths anytime you've mastered them to some degree, right? I love that. So really, really good wordsmithing there. How about the things you love?
I actually love connecting with people, empowering people. That energizes me. That's my source of energy.
Yeah. Any environment where you love doing that? Because again, sometimes it's like maybe it's okay to do it for your direct reports, but actually you would really love to be doing it in a different environment. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, it's like more like for peers, not direct reports, actually.
Yeah, cool.
It's it empowers me more if there is no reporting structure between me and the people.
Cool. So peer communities, right? Where there actually is maybe some more fluidity. The power dynamics that you're creating are part of the culture of the community that you've built, right? Very equitable, sounds like. So again, I'm like, again, gleaning all of these values that we didn't even get a chance to name yet around equity, around connection, around learning. Good stuff. And what do you want to learn next?
That one is really hard. I want to get better at acting bold, right? Like actually not being people pleaser, actually being comfortable with uncomfortable feelings and being on time. Like I'm good at post-event coaching and telling, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done this, but I'm never good at the moment when someone says something that I don't want to do it, I shouldn't be doing, it's not a good idea, not say yes. So I don't know how to summarize that in few words. So
I mean, it sounds like I'm hearing work on boundaries, on your sacred no. I'm hearing
saying no.
Yeah. I mean, the sacred
calling out people when they are doing something they shouldn't be, instead of like, sure, like someone says a remark that is not cool, I want to be able to say that was not cool.
Yeah. And so there's so many different, again, just kind of brainstorming here briefly, there's so many different approaches to enabling that, right? The one that I ended up specializing in for this exact thing really focused on the mind, body, emotions system, right? Whereas there's other practices that some people find really effective, like a mindset work, right? Like, well, okay, what story are you telling about this? Can we change the story in our, using our brains? For me, I find that my thoughts are deeply influenced, and most animals, their thoughts are deeply influenced by how safe their body feels. And I became so passionate about approaching it from that direction, right? So again, like all of the ways in which people cultivate their ability to say no, it sounds like is what you're going to be learning next, very concretely, right? And so this is where, again, this is the purpose of this third bullet point is multifaceted, right? First, we want to talk about, just admit either to ourselves or to others where it's useful about just, we don't do a thing, right? Like for me, like I'll look at people's resumes, but like by and large, my entire process deprioritizes the resume completely. I am not the best person to be looking at a resume if that's really what you want. like I am, call someone else. Like that's not me, right? Like I'm not terrible at it, but it's definitely not my core competency. I don't necessarily want to learn about it next, but it's certainly something that I feel comfortable owning. Like, nah, that's just not my methodology, right? So that's one purpose that that this can serve. The other is just identifying your secret, like what it is, like your special sauce, but in a way it's like, this is the flavor of community building you're going to be doing. Because typically what we want to learn next ends up being to some degree what we end up teaching next. Right. So I have a feeling, and this is just a nice little, again, it's not a perfect science, but it's a great mile marker or flag for you, Ani, about what type of content you're going to be offering 6 months from now, when you've actually come a really long way in mastering this, right? Because again, you're gonna be able to speak from such a powerful lived experience in your community where you're trying to foster connection, which, by the way, boundaries and connection have to go hand in hand. So just adding a little bit of color to that picture. How does that all land with you?
I love it. And it talks what I was just thinking. Like you hit the nail.
Oh, I'm so glad. And again, this is why it's so much more fun to do this with another person. in my prior workshops, I would sort of teach this and maybe do one example and then be like, okay, bye, have fun, like go create it. But now it just is such a beautiful experience to come together and do this. And again, this is why people join the reInvent program, is so that they can just give this draft, go out and practice it, come back the next week and practice it again, do more wordsmithing, feel into it, right? Recognize the parts of it that are getting more or less true as they further their reflection and their personal growth, right? And so yes, this is I'm so glad to hear this is landing. So you've got this draft, you've got your MVP. Okay. And on day 3 of this session, so tomorrow is about what if I go broke, the next is how do I find my first client. Great. You're going to be taking this, and on day 3 we're going to learn and practice the system for eliciting, for drawing out your first customer or client for whatever it is that you're going to be doing. It may not even have a name yet. We're all here to invent new jobs that don't exist yet. Hell yeah to that. Right? Like I'm never going to go get a job with a name. Like I invent my own job from now on. And hopefully that resonates with most of you here. All right, who's next? Who wants to go through their stitch, and maybe if you're struggling with it? Well, actually, sorry, pause. I'm gonna look at the chat. A business case for why your strengths are imperative. Well, first note here. It's not going to be imperative for everyone. So who is it imperative for? Sarah, real question. I'll go ahead and do you want to dig into that for a sec?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of where I'm maybe a little bit stuck. I was in your workshop, I guess it was about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I love that beginning question, but I think as I started to dig in, and Dawn, I think you asked a really great follow-up, is will a business pay for this? And you're hitting the nail on the head, Becca, is which business? So how to go about figuring out which businesses will pay for my particular brand of superpower is a really tricky question.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to keep me from sinking into articulating and understanding what that superpower is, just because I get stuck and hiccuped by the need to, create a compelling business case for it before I can even really understand what it is.
So it's this interesting kind of process hiccup that, again, most of us as optimizers, as high achievers, as problem solvers, right? This is where we go. It's almost where we go to hide a bit, where we're like, no, let me just go out there and find the answer, and then I'll get started on my art, right? But that's not what artists do. Come on. So I think this is where, again, embracing our inner artist is a whole thing. Okay. Like this is a spiritual journey that I have been on for over a decade. And it's just like, it keeps getting, crazier. The cheat sheet show again. Sorry, Susie, let me just do that really quick. Let me see. What am I sharing right now?
Nothing shared right now.
Yeah, let's see it. Is this is let me know if this wasn't what you guys were wanting. But this is the words to avoid and words to use. So let's tap a bit, Sarah, into the roots again, right? Because again, normal to go out and be like, oh, well, let's design the fruit of the tree based on who we think, like who we think is gonna like want to eat that fruit. Right. So I'm really going deep on this metaphor right now. But a very practical example of this is when, oh gosh, everyone was getting laid off, right? In 2021, I guess, 2020, I can't remember when it all started. And as someone who writes a lot of content about how helping people accelerate their careers, I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't really like planning on this. And it wasn't like kind of where my heart was leading me, but like, golly, I probably would be a crazy business decision to not cater to all the people who just got laid off and want to find a new job. And so, yeah, I responded to the market way back when. And coming from that place of doing what I thought other people wanted landed me with a challenging period in my career, I'll say, where it wasn't so much that I wasn't like cut out for what I wanted, like for that particular thing. I mean, obviously I'd help people find new roles and products all the time, but it didn't come from this internal sense of intuition about what I needed to be bringing to the world in that moment. And that decision probably delayed me focusing and doubling down on this work for like 18 months. Because I was so drained by doing that former work based on what the market told me what I was supposed to do. Because that's what everyone was saying, right? Also, like, yeah, you totally do that. If I had started on that way back, I would have a very different story to tell today. But here we are. Again, I had some lessons we learned the hard way. So we want to go back to these values and desires to dictate what we end up building, right? What story we end up telling, and ultimately the product that we end up offering. Again, that sounds kind of woo-woo, but actually, look, guys, I have tried the alternative and it doesn't work. So I don't know what to tell you. It's just woo-woo, I guess. Like if we go with our inner desires and really let that intuition guide us, we build better businesses. So from all of that, from there, let's dig in a little bit about, again, going back to your calendar and your values, Sarah, like what if it were fun? And what if it were easy? 2 really great prompts for everyone here. You can take note of that. If it were fun and it were easy, what would you do? What would you charge money for?
I think if it were fun and it were easy, I would be doing a lot of qualitative research all the time and generating empathy through that storytelling and through the curiosity and creativity that you can bring through sharing those user stories. That'd be fun. That'd be easy.
And who are you ever talking to? So again, there's either collaborating with or they're your client that you're working with. It's fun and easy to work with them also, to interact with them. Who are they? What makes them special?
They're curious people as well, and they're interested in, they understand the value of having empathy for humans and users. And
yeah. And what another prompt? What pisses you off about how things are done today? That if it were done differently, if it were done your way, like, oh my God, it's so fucking obvious how much better it would be. Come on, like, lay it on me.
And this is where I run into the, the business case is, for me, the thing that drives me crazy is the flattening of complexity, the reducing of nuance. So like, give it to me in the shortest little blurb that you possibly can. Whereas I really feel like that does a lot of violence to the actual reality of what's happening on the ground. That's what drives me crazy. And I hear a million, tech voices in my head being like, nah, that's not good. We need to reduce the complexity. We need to tell neat and tidy stories that are going to be actionable. And that's the tricky part, is it makes me angry.
So it doesn't sound tricky to me. It sounds like there is a ton of harm and violence done through collapsing complexity. And sure. There are certainly lots of people with money who are potential clients who are so myopic that they're willing to commit violence and ultimately kill the ecosystem that they're a part of because it gets them a short-term result, right? Sure, those people definitely exist. I don't know how to convince you that people who appreciate complexity and see that as a long-term business investment also exist. Like, what if they existed? Again, right? Again, we can't know that they don't.
Right.
So what would the characteristics of them be? And again, maybe this is just a little bit of a note, but and we'll, on day 3, we'll get really into kind of fleshing out who this person is and how you deliver the result that they want, right? The result being perhaps leveraging complexity to do good in the world as well as good business. Because by the way, like it's business happens to go better for people who care about empathy. Like all of it's about employee turnover, about psychological safety, about nurturing creativity, about equity and justice, has business cases to it. Now, I kind of am over like using that as the reason why people should do it, but like it's certainly true, right? It's not the only,
Sure. Yeah.
definitely true. So I think that the same thing can be the same thing. Well, actually, I'll ask it as a question. Could the same thing be true for the right business about nuanced, complex, qualitative research that then you are able to then work with them on creating actionable insights out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're tying the two things together, right? I think you can't have one without the other, or at least that's what I've seen. But you're hitting up against, I think, my burnout, which is the inability to even imagine a world in which that's valued.
Of course.
Thanks,
So this
Dawn.
is where, like I mentioned at the beginning, our ability to dream is it's imperative that we we be in the act of healing our nervous systems to support that creativity, right? If we are in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or appease, people pleasing, creativity out the window, first thing to go. Right. And it's so sweet. Like, oh my gosh, that's so adaptive, right? Like our ancestors who paused to get curious about something interesting while they were being chased by the tiger, didn't survive to pass on the genetic material. So here we are, right? And so that's just really, really valuable to remember. And again, this is why I offer this process here today, because it's tactically really valuable. It's also why my programs are 6 months long, because almost everyone has experienced violence at the hand of corporate culture and all of the stories, and at the hand of work culture, we'll say, in particular, how it manifests in the corporate environment. And we all have some regeneration to do. So for some of my clients, it's a long, long road. For others, it's less so. But again, these tools are really, really valuable and really high impact. So yeah, that makes sense. The obstacle here is the way. It's possible that this is just this next step of getting this stitch is just, 1 or 2 steps down the road of a couple weeks of really, really deep investment in the nervous system healing, right? That not being a diversion, but directly on the strategic path towards this outcome. You buying what I'm selling?
100%. Yeah, thanks, Becca.
Awesome. Let me just check these chats really quick. Cool. Ooh, Nary Oxman. I've not heard of them. But that's awesome. Hell yes to the 1,000-year business plan. That's like totally what we're talking about. There's a wide range of again, there's just so many people in the world, you guys. And so many of them are the tech world and the business world, as I think a lot of us have been exposed to it. God, it makes our world feel so small. So small. So if there's one thing that you take away from today, it's like pull out a bit, do whatever that takes, do whatever that means to you, pull out a bit, go talk to your friend who's a nurse or a stripper or an artist, right? Let's just, oh my gosh, there's just such a bigger world out there than we tend to remember, when just every day we're being hammered with software as life or death urgency, right? Awesome. Who wants to go next? We have plenty of time.
I'll go.
Yeah, lay it on me. What's the draft you got so far? And maybe if there's
Oh man. Okay, let me see. It is oh man, I kept writing it over. Okay, I excel at like bringing teams together and making it fun. So like motivating and empower people to be an incredible cross-functional team, and especially in risky new product bets. to
Mhm.
consistently create impact and making products users love. So that's very product focused, but I think like maybe the kernel is just like making it fun, making people super self-motivated and empowered to good outcomes.
Awesome. So here's where we kind of want to toe this line of storytelling to meet people, meet the listener of the story, the recipient, where they are, right? So I know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of folks who are consulting, or especially if they're considering like spending company budget or their own personal budget, we want to meet them where they are in a place where it's like, oh, well, yeah, you're going to pay me and it's going to be fun, right? It's like, oh, we want to give them just a little bit something more to latch on to. So the exercise here, and this is true for anyone who is finding themselves with a feeling like maybe it's a little vague, or maybe you've gotten feedback that your story is feeling a little vague or not quite landing. There's usually a skill one layer underneath the story that you have in mind when you're talking about bringing teams together and making it fun. So for what I want to do here on this one is I want you to imagine and tell me the story of when you brought the team together and it was fun. What skills were you using, and or what was the context that you were operating in that needed that intervention, right? Needed you.
Yeah, so I think part of it's like change management. Thinking back, I worked on a couple post-acquisition products, like pulling them into an acquiring company, and like it's just chaotic. Like things are really changing for people. There's a lot of fear in those situations, and like being able to create the psychological safety and the coaching that folks need to do their best work, even in either like a really ambiguous problem area or like a big organizational change that also might still be too big.
Nope, that honestly, I'm just writing it down so I have it because I'm a visual processor through the change. So change management after an acquisition, boom, that's the skill. Now, as a soulful, like, I don't know, like emotional person who wants more touchy-feely shit in their life, which I certainly did, you might be hearing that and being like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, no, it feels like what I was doing. This is, again, this is one of those things that's kind of hard to internalize, but I want to just offer it as a principle for everyone today. It's the gateway into the temple. Okay. So qualitative data analysis, it's like, or change management after an acquisition. You're like, oh, but it's so much more than that. And fucking, of course it is, right? Like you're an artist, you're magical. Like, how could you possibly like do yourself the disservice of like drilling it down to be so insufficiently described? It's just the phrase that is the gateway into your temple. So that the person can be like, oh, yeah, I mean, I don't know that I need fun, or that, my team is together. I don't need them to bring my team together. And like fun, I don't know how I feel about that. Whatever. I don't really understand what that means. Oh my God, I'm dealing with team performance after an acquisition because this change management is like overwhelming me. Holy shit. Yeah, I definitely need Allie's help. The moment they're in the temple, you lay your actual process on them. And you're like, here is how we're going to address this to get you to your point B, right? And so that is the process where, again, I mean, every client that I have, and this is my own experience as well, I thrashed against it. Oh my gosh, you guys should, when I was first starting out and I had to like say that what I did was help people get promoted, I wanted to like go play in traffic. It was the worst. And then I was like, wait, but like I need them to know how different what I'm actually doing is, right? Like it was about your mind, body, emotion system and spiritual growth and creativity and like all of this stuff that's so much more true, because that's what everything is really about, right? It's not even just about the job. So that's what your content is going to be about. That's what all of your marketing collateral, all descriptions of your process is going to do justice to what's in the temple, right? But what we're doing right now is just that gateway, and it's meeting people where they are. How does that feel? Oops, Allie, that was you, right?
Oh, yes,
Cool.
totally.
Perfect. Sorry, I couldn't see you nodding there at first. Cool. And so the other thing that I'll say, cross-functional team empowerment. Again, this is where it's for this one, what I'll say is this is another thing. So there's two things that I've covered here so far for revising your stitch. Okay, for everyone. One is if you're on this words to avoid thing and you can't quite like crack the code, option one or lens number one is go one click deeper, right? Where were you? What were you doing with whom? That's actually the words that you want. The other one is oh my gosh, I just forgot what it was. Here I go, my ADHD brain. Cross-functional team empowerment. I'll come back to it. The other thing that I want to come back to is the risky new how did you say it? The risky new product exploration or expansion?
Yeah, so like I mean just design thinking and you know, de-risking through like design sprints and just like just working through making decisions when we don't have all of the data.
Yeah. So de-risking new product expansions.
Yeah.
Is the gateway to there, I think. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. And so cross-functional team empowerment, there was, oh man, I'm going to think about it like when I'm in the shower later. That's how it always goes. I'll think of it soon. So these, even de-risking new product expansion. So again, that could be, that's just really solid. I think that's really, really clear. Because it, again, paints a picture of exactly where you are in the organization, the juncture and set of considerations and decisions that are being made, right? And then also change, and another thing that you do is change management after an acquisition. And then like the magic that you in particular bring to it is you're gonna have, once you've got them listening with that hook, then you get to differentiate yourself from all the other people that are doing it in this dumb old dusty ass way. Right. All right. How about the things you love doing?
Yeah, the things I love doing, I feel like I'm kind of burned out. I feel like I'm in the kind of like rust is resistance camp. Like I just like learning and being curious and doing things totally outside the context of my job and then bringing those things back into whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just like learning stuff and being curious.
Yeah. Anything that you've recently looped back in and that's again, like think about things that differentiate you. Like, I don't know if you just got back from like a yoga retreat, like I'm about to go on a qigong thing for New Year's. Like I'm gonna bring a ton of shit back that's like gonna differentiate me from all the other coaches out there in the career world, right? Is there anything that's a story for you lately?
Let me think. I think maybe probably just some like good personal growth. Like I think by just kind of like thinking about my like shadows and things that I bring to work situations that aren't really there. I've been able to kind of like watch other people and understand like I guess what's motivating like people in leadership or people I'm working with. And so I think just learning more about myself and more helps me kind of like quickly see what's going on in a situation and a leadership team that might be dysfunctional. It's like, oh, like this person has a huge ego and that's why they're acting this way. Or like this person is super insecure. And I don't know if I'm like doing much with it, but I feel like, so I don't know, something about just like the things I've been learning outside of work has helped me like read the people at work a lot better.
That's awesome. And fun prompt for you. This is also for anyone. We'll talk about this more on day 3, where we're talking about what's your very simple marketing funnel to get people in the door. For most of us, it's going to look like visibility in the form of content creation, right? So getting our ideas out there about like why things should be done or can be done your way. I think what this headline of like why shadow work is so imperative to business success and why your leadership team isn't doing it. And here's why they should. Like, oh my God, I would click the shit out of that. Right.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. I'm putting that in my next blog.
Yeah. Shadow work is great. And again, you're going to all the people who are like, I've been dying for someone to talk about this. And now I have permission to. This is the thing about being out here on the edge of invention, right? Is like, we don't, and this is kind of getting back at like thinking about what the market wants, right? There was not a market for my business when I started. I created it. That's what artists do. Right? Like, again, you can take that to the bank. I really want everyone thinking about how this radical act of creation is so worthwhile, and you already know what it is that you are going to be expressing. So again, the stitch is just a framework. It's these 3 bullet points. Again, like you'll notice that we're somewhat flexible in like how we actually ended up telling the story, but this is what you do, Allie. It's what you do no matter where you are, right? No matter what it's called, what your job title is, no matter if you're working for yourself or somebody else, like this is what you do just because like an artist, you cannot not do it. Right? This is your just form of self-expression that's happening all the time. And backwards engineering how to get paid for it, just logistics, babe. So that is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. I know that we've got another 12 minutes or so. So I wanted to as promised, right? I said that I would sort of tell everyone how to get more help. Let me put everyone on gallery here so we can see more people. Oh, yay, there's so many people. So tomorrow what we're going to be doing is setting up a runway model and revenue and business model and revenue plan for this process, right? For you going out into the world and productizing this and actually envisioning what it would look like to sell it. So you will walk away with a real actual business model for like how you're going to make this work whenever you're going to pull the trigger on it. Right. And you're going to land in this place where now that you've got this plan that you can just, again, hit, like you can pull the trigger on any time, then we're going to be able to open up the emotional and spiritual work that is going to be required to enable you to actually execute that plan. Right. So here's a thing that I want to offer for anyone who didn't get a chance to go today, or you just, I don't know, you just weren't comfortable for whatever reason sharing what you were working on with your stitch in public yet. I literally never do this. Again, my one-on-one coaching packages are pretty extensive. I just find that we do get so much mileage out of a longer engagement that typically I don't offer this, but again, A, because I feel like it and I have energy, and also B, because I found that a 90-minute session one-off, which again is crazy, like I never do this, but a 90-minute one-off session that's really focused on the stitch can basically launch people into a place where they're ready to start their new career in this next phase. And I've done like 3 of these so far, and they've all just been absolutely dynamite. So the results of that experiment are me offering that to anyone here. So basically there is a I'll send this link out to everybody, but there is a option for just $1,000. It's literally just the prorated, like just my hourly rate prorated, which so yeah, it's kind of a screaming deal. For $1,000, you get 90 minutes. We can break it up. We can do it all at once, whatever you want. If you are already like, yeah, okay, like I really want to do this, I really want to perfect this, I want to get going, that might be a really, really great option for you. So Calendly, I should have had this link handy. It's my ADHD again. Becca Camp. I'm going to send you guys the link in the chat. You can just book and pay. I'm going to offer just a limited number of these leading up into the holidays. Again, I might make an exception for the start of the new year, but again, this is something that I don't typically do. It's just so impactful. It just felt like a crime to not offer it. So here is the, okay, for some reason I'm unable, oh, here we go. One-on-one deep dive. There we go. Sorry, guys. You can schedule right here. So Allison asked, do you have a recommended way to put the 3 parts of the stitch together into a script? So yes, and actually, if anyone wants to go read the deep dive on sort of the broader framework, it's the broader framework for how to tell this story and deliver it in context. In particular, on day 3 of this, so on Thursday this week, we're going to go into what it looks like to actually put this stitch to work. Right? Who are you talking to, and like what's coming of those meetings, right? So there's real strategy that we're going to be building around this tactic. But if you don't want to wait until Thursday, you can check out my YouTube channel. I think it's Rebecca Camp YouTube. Anything where I talk about career narratives or your stitch or networking. This is content that I've been cultivating for like 2 years now. So there is a lot of instances of me talking about it, often in the context of finding a new job. But in general, all of it is transferable to just telling your story powerfully and authentically, so that the right opportunities just come to you because you've managed to stay top of mind and you're telling your story in a really effective way, right? So people are like, oh yeah, I do need that, thank you, right? So there's lots and lots of scripting available there. And like any script that a human being uses with other human beings, it is just guidelines. Ideally, you're creating and bringing a body to these interactions that is feeling very relaxed, very organic, very responsive to how the nature of the conversation goes, because you're just that dope of a person. It's not weirdly transactional all the time. So again, there is a way to really make it pop, which is to get your mind, body, emotion system dialed in. Other places you can find my content, go deeper into that. Yeah, so let's see the other way that you can get help, especially if you are looking for a community. My big thing, and Ani, I think you and I are kindred spirits in this way. My art form has been, since I was a tiny little toddler, maybe, has been getting people together and creating opportunities for them to not feel alone. Right, whether that's through my own companionship or generating structured shared experiences so that people can really feel like they are just with their people, you know what I mean? And the radical healing properties of that experience, while also kind of the tactical stuff. Like, yeah, there are cheat codes, there are shortcuts, babe, get them. Like, come and get them. I gave you as many as I could today, but there are so many. And there are so many parts of this journey that there are simply no cheat codes or shortcuts for. You have to do the reflection. You have to do the inner work. You have to rewrite these ancient programs that you're carrying in your body. And if that sounds appealing to you, then then the group program may be a great fit. People who come alive in community, man, it really is, it's the best art I've ever created, for sure, and continue to co-create with my community every day. So anyway, I won't go into a huge a sales pitch on this right now. You'll have opportunities. I'll be mentioning kind of as I teach over the next 2 days, I'll be kind of highlighting, and by the way, this is exactly what you can expect, so that you can get a sense of if it would be right for you, what the kind of content is, what the feel of the group sessions are, and just like, I don't know, how I get people the results that we're talking about. I think you should know what you're buying. So I'm an open book. So feel free, if you're like, game on, let's get the 90 minutes, grab a slot there. Those are limited and they will fill up. And I'll leave the next 6 minutes. We can like take a minute and just, I can do a Q&A if anyone's got any burning questions. I'm here for you. Everyone feeling amazing about their stitch or want to review it? You're welcome, guys. No pressure, by the way. Feel free to take 5 minutes back.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye, Allie. Have a great one.
You too.
It was awesome. Thank you very much. Looking forward to tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll get that business model. Bring your spreadsheet, Steez.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. See you later.
All right. Bye, everyone. All right. If there's no one, if everyone's feeling like they want to just get 5 minutes back, go stretch, take a deep breath, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time. All right. Bye, everyone.